And here's why. Three primary reasons, benefits: economic, environmental, and energy. Economic-wise, we're talking about cost-effective savings for building owners. I'll define cost-effective in a minute here. And of course, if people are saving money and they have more disposable income, what's that going to do to the local economy and local businesses? People are going to benefit a lot from that. Environmental benefits: we'll have reduced outdoor air and water pollution. These cost-effective building measures can improve indoor air quality, health and safety for the people that inhabit them. And then in terms of energy, we'll have more resiliency, which I'll describe in a minute, and a more sustainable use of resources over the long term. And sustainable by definition is meeting our needs today without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their needs, which is the path that we're on currently. It's compromising. So, next, with respect to economic benefits, it really depends on the individual circumstances, and in fact, it depends is probably the best answer to all kinds of questions like, does it make sense for me to do X or Y or Z? Oftentimes it depends. But what I'm going to try to cover here is the mother lode. Okay, we're in the gold country, so that's appropriate, right? The mother lode of those things that are typically cost effective. How do we measure cost effectiveness? Well, we're looking at the savings relative to the cost. There's different measures by which we can define cost effectiveness. There's payback: how many years does it take till I break even from my investment? There's a return on investment, which is an interesting concept. Think of it like this: return on investment. Somebody tell me what they think they can get in terms of a return, a no-risk return right now, locally here. Anybody want to give me a percent return on investment you could get from some sort of an investment, like say
I can make 0.25% in my savings account.
0.25%, okay. Do I hear 1%?
Actually,
2% of the CD.
2, yeah.
2%, awesome. And what's the inflation rate?
3.
Okay, so, okay, yeah. Probably enough economists in here to know what that means. So, return on investment, when it comes to renewable energy or energy efficiency, you look at it basically the same way. I'm going to spend X dollars on this energy efficiency measure. And over the next 10 years, I'm going to get a return through the savings on that investment. And what you'll find is that the return you get on an energy efficiency investment, the ones we're talking about here, for the most part, it depends to some extent. The return that you're going to get on a renewable energy system, again, depends, but typically is going to blow that 2% out of the water and put you way above the rate of inflation. And so that's why when I go back to those goals, I think if we can just educate people, educate you, you educate others, we can get there, because it's in people's best interests. Don't be putting your money in an interest earning account at 1/4 to 2%. It doesn't even keep up with inflation. And the other way to measure it is years to positive net cash flow, and I'll give you an example of that. Very important, how do you determine the savings? You've got to be careful, buyer beware out there. You got to consider the source. Salespeople oftentimes aren't giving you completely accurate information. It pays to really kind of compare bids and ask lots of questions and shop, which a lot of people don't do. I'm surprised all the time by that. Having an independent energy auditor can really help. Somebody that doesn't have a stake in the sale, you know, somebody that can look at it from a completely independent point of view. So what do you choose? Payback, cash flow, return on investment, ROI? That's really up to you. You know, some people prefer one over the other. If people have lots of cash, it might be payback. I got $10,000 in my account that I want to invest and get a return, but I want it to pay back in 5 years, let's say. So people might just have an idea of what their criteria is for making a decision. Cash flow I'll get to in a minute, as well as ROI. Okay. There we go. So here's an example of financing. This happens to be a solar project, but it could be anything. And it wasn't a particularly awesome solar example because it was a relatively low bill, not really great sunshine, 5 3/8% interest rate over 15 years. Assuming electricity escalates at about 5%, so that's an important thing to take into account when you're looking at how long is it going to take to pay back. The fact that the energy costs keep going up helps make things pay back sooner, right? So that's good. And I know it's a big table with a lot of numbers, but just if you kind of look at it from the standpoint of starting here, $1,000 down just happens to be this example. Sometimes it's 0. And then at the end of year 1, what happens? This particular case, they saved that much in electricity bills, but they had to pay that much in financing payments, so the red is negative. Okay. They saved this much, almost took care of the financing payments, but because it was an amortized loan, they got a deduction from the state, deduction from the federal government, and deductions, of course, talk to your tax advisor because there's limitations. Laws recently changed, but unless you've got a really, really big loan, you should be able to qualify for them. So all said and done at the end of year 1, look at that big number. That's the 30% tax credit, which applies to solar. Does not apply in most cases to energy efficiency, but there's exceptions. So they came out $7,738 ahead at the end of the first year. Altogether, well, you got to take the $1,000 that they paid up front, so they're only this far ahead. They're only $6,738 ahead. By the end of year 2, the change in, there's no tax credit left anymore. Although if they couldn't use all that, they could roll it over the subsequent years. They're $229 ahead. Or if they stored it all under their pillow, it would add up to this much. Does that make sense? Everybody understand that? So then you march down year to year, and every year the savings increase because the cost of electricity keeps going up. The payments remain the same, but the savings keep going up at 5%. The tax benefits keep going down because you're paying more and more principal. As you get towards the end of the loan, it starts out mostly interest. So at any rate, this is a financing example. So one might ask, what's the payback in a situation like this? How many years did it take for this investment to pay off with financing?
15 years. Less than 1.
Immediate, yeah. So when people say, well, gosh, I don't know about if I can afford to make changes to my home. I don't know if I can afford to upgrade the attic insulation or do some of the other things we're going to be talking about. You can get loans for that stuff. And in fact, the Energy Action Plan, and it's going to be, how are you going to make that available to everybody? Email them?
Yes, I will provide links to all of the current energy efficiency programs and rebates from the Energy Action Plan. The Energy Action Plan, if anybody's interested, it's a really, really great read. I mean, I really enjoyed it. But there's appendices, that's me, right? The appendices at the end, they talk about different programs that are available to people, financing, but there's financing available from your local banks. As general contractors as well as solar contractors, we have financing that we make available to people to do the whole thing. Renewable, energy efficiency upgrades all can be rolled into one. There's the Empower Placer program that loans money out for a wide range of different measures.
And there's lots of really wonderful purveyors of solar and energy efficiency in Nevada County. Remember the shop thing earlier? You got some good shopping to do locally here. So this is an opportunity for people that don't have, you know, $5, $10, $20, $30,000 of cash laying around, which I don't know. People want to raise their hand with me, but